Okay, what's our go live situation?
Ready to go live.
Okay, I think we're all here, so let's do it.
Going live now.
Okay, I think we're live. At 5:03, I will call to order the Finance Committee for today, Monday, July 29th. And if we could get a roll call, please.
Certainly, Madam Chair. Councillor Cassett.
Here.
Councillor Lindell. Councillor Faulkner.
Here.
Councillor Lee Garcia.
Here.
Chair Romero Worth.
I am here.
Madam Chair, you have a quorum.
All right. We have approval of the agenda. Do we have any changes to the agenda this evening?
Madam Chair, no changes from staff.
All right, is there a motion? Move to approve. There's a motion and a second to approve the agenda tonight. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? That motion passes. On to approval of the consent agenda. I believe there are 3 items that have been pulled.
Madam Chair, yes, that is correct. Item E, item L, and item N were pulled for discussion.
Move to approve as amended.
Okay, hold on just 2 seconds. Anything else the committee would like to hear? Now your motion, Counselor.
Now move to approve as amended.
Motion and a second. Did you get the second, Director?
Madam Chair, I heard Councillor Lindell and Councillor Garcia, or Councillor Faulkner, I'm sorry. Councillor Lindell?
It was a by the nose finish. We have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? That motion passes. We don't have any presentations tonight, so we'll move right into the consent agenda. And the first item that was pulled is item E. Request for approval of amendment number 2 to item 23-0493. This is an exclusive negotiation agreement with Midtown Santa Fe Productions, QOF LLC, to extend the term through December 16th, 2024 to negotiate terms for land and building disposition and development of the Midtown Production Studios lot pursuant to the city's request for proposals. And Karen Iverson is here. She's the Metropolitan Redevelopment Director to answer questions. Welcome. And Councilor Lindell, I believe you pulled this item.
Yes, I did. Thank you, Chair. Thanks for being here. Just a couple of general questions on this. We had extended this one other time. What have been the roadblocks of getting it completed from the previous extension to today? And what are the obstacles that we're facing with getting this completed?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Councilor Lindell. I wouldn't say that there have been roadblocks per se, more just constant pursuing of this very difficult and complicated project. In your packet on the agreement, it's like the chart that's included. It's Exhibit C, the first exhibit. What I tried to do was really carefully show you what has been completed since the last time that we had the ENA extension. So there are items in red that say complete. Those were completed as of the first amendment. And then there are items that say completed since amendment number 1. And those are all of the due diligence items that we have completed since then. So you can see that there has been a whole lot of work done. One very specific thing that took some time was figuring out the sewer capacity. Philip Jesue, who is the applicant, is here in the audience. And one thing that he had to do to ascertain whether or not we could use the existing sewer line was actually fly in some specialists with some special equipment to test the flow of those sewer lines and determine that they did indeed have additional capacity, which really led us down a much easier, quicker path to being able to provide the infrastructure, not needing to go in and put in new sewer lines. Just as one example of something that has been done. The Public Works team has been working really hard. They have completed their historical analysis to understand the flow and the drainage of the site, which was really important. We pursued the subdivision. You all authorized us a few meetings ago to submit that subdivision. We are days away from formally submitting that. That will create the legal parcels that will allow us to go forward with this. We've done everything. If you turn that second page on that graph,
Can you tell us what page in the packet that is? I'm trying to get to it, but
yeah,
it loads so slow.
it's page 5 and 6 of the packet.
Mm, Not of my packet.
I was looking at page. Oh, it is on 5 and 6, but I also saw it on page 10.
The one that's further is probably the chart that was with the original. So 5 and 6 is the current schedule and completion of tasks.
Yeah, so page 5 of 58 reads sideways, which is why I'm turning my head this way, because I haven't figured out how to turn it around yet. ENA benchmark schedule tasks and drafts. There we go. I'm turning my head. ENA Amendment 2 extension. Are you seeing that, Counselor?
I am on it. Of course, just like you said, my head doesn't swivel like that.
You need a millennial to sit next to you.
Sure, wish you would have come to my house last night and done that. Very much.
Very well. Yeah, and then I guess Exhibit C, is that different?
This is Exhibit C. Yes, it's the first Exhibit C, pages 5 and 6.
Okay,
So
so it does repeat in the packet,
It does repeat
but
the
it's the
packet.
same thing.
It's not the same thing.
Oh.
The one that's further in the packet is an older version of this.
Gotcha.
So this is the current version that's attached to this amendment, second amendment. So if you go to page 6, I mean, we've even updated this since you've gotten it. In fact, that we had negotiated the terms of the development and disposition agreement and the lease, the two major documents that will be memorializing the agreement. But we've actually completed the first draft and provided that draft to Mr. Jesue. So even since this has been provided to you, we have made progress. So the only things that are on here that have not been completed is finalizing those terms and bringing those final documents to the governing body. So we are very close. Of course, those are very important discussions to finalize the terms, but we are very close. The length of the extension was purely for, not need to come back again.
Okay, so what's the end date on this amendment?
Madam Chair, Councilor Lindell, it is December 16th.
Will we be able to have it done by then?
Absolutely.
Will we be able to have it done in your best opinion prior to that?
It is my goal to have it done by the end of October.
Terrific. And I say that because I don't like these things to come to us during Christmas. It's the kind of surprises that I don't look for from Santa. Just gives us more time. We don't feel so rushed. And I think it's a better process. And typically, we only have one meeting in December. And I think we may only have one meeting in November. So just throwing that out there if we're trying to stick to this timeline. Okay, I appreciate you being here, and I hope that we can, get this done so that we can take a look at the, final, negotiation and see if it needs to have more time put into it or more negotiation put into it, or if the agreement is acceptable. Thank you, Chair.
Other questions from the committee? And if not, is there a motion?
Move to approve?
Second. There's a motion and a second to approve item E. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Oh, do we need a roll call?
Yes.
Actually, I think we
usually do.
Sorry,
Mhm.
sorry.
That's okay. Counselor Cassett,
Yes.
Counselor Lindahl,
Yes.
Counselor Faulkner, Counselor Garcia,
Yes.
Chair Worth.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. All right, I'm on to item L, request for approval of a professional services contract with Interfaith Community Shelter LLC for fiscal sponsorship and oversight of operations of Consuelos Place Emergency Non-Congregate Shelter in a total amount not to exceed $750,000, including NMGRT through June 30th, 2025. We have Kristen Woods with Youth and Family Services Program Manager. We have Julie Sanchez, our all-around rock star. And I believe, Counselor Lindell, you pulled this item.
I did. Thank you. Thank you for being here tonight. Could you just give us a little bit of an overview, of really, what this contract is, what the 750,000 is, what our return receivables on this, just a basic overview so that we're clear about it.
Madam Chair, Counselor Lindell. So the Consuelos, the interfaith agreement for fiscal sponsorship, the $750,000 covers both administrative and operating expenses by the facility. So that includes everything from case management to program management to office supplies, security, pretty much the whole operations of Consuelos. There is additional funding that's coming out of affordable housing that covers that gap in funding at approximately, I think, $170,000, and that'll cover the rest of the administration and operating.
So if there's another 170, that's like 920 approximately, to run the entire operation for a year. Is that right?
Madam Chair, Counselor Lindell, it's about, I think, 1.1 million roughly is what we're spending on Consuelos.
Okay, you're a little bit short with the 750 and the 170,000, but I'm sure that you have an idea where you're going to get that from.
Madam Chair, Counselor, I do. I always do. We have a backup plan.
Of course, we don't need to quibble over the math. I'm sure that you have it covered. I just wanted to know that that's and that covers us for a year. And do you have any way of saying how many people will be served in that amount of time with that $1 million?
So, Madam Chair, Counselor Lindell, I have the incredible current Consuelos program manager here who can talk a little bit more about folks being served and what that looks like in a year.
Welcome, Ms. Williams.
Ms. Michelle Williams.
Madam Chair, Councilor Lindell. That's changed a little bit through the years at Consuelos, but usually around on average, it's about 100 people a year that we serve. We do medical respite clients there as well, and clients who are in COVID quarantine. So majority of the clients there at any given time are those who are homeless and are seeking to be housed long-term. So again, over the years, that's been a little bit stickier in terms of affordable housing availability in the community. So they live there a little bit longer and longer throughout the years that Consuelos Place has been open. But by and large, on average, it's about 100 clients per year We usually have about a 40% success rate in getting people into long-term housing.
Does that include, meals?
We get meals donated from YouthWorks and as well as Food Depot. So mostly that is not paying for food every day.
Okay, does YouthWorks use the kitchen there at all anymore?
We have not been able to use the kitchen there. We've been told by the city that that is not to be used.
Okay. All right, so about $10,000 a person for a year's worth of service. Okay. Thank you for coming tonight. I appreciate it. And those are the questions I have. Thank you, Chair.
Counselor Cassett.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. I just want to take the opportunity to share that I had visited Consuelos last week, maybe last week. And I was really very impressed with the operations. I know that when we think about the history of Consuelos, and it was basically stood up overnight, and there was a lot of work that had to go in it. But it was really incredible to see this facility, especially knowing, what the more traditional facilities will look like when we are working with the homeless population, and it's more of the bunk style. But just the amount of resources there, the amount that the community donates to Consuelos was really impressive. And the community room there with clothing and toys. And when people get housed, there's a room where they can go and get, decor, which isn't something that you think about, but as you're looking at the human aspect of these individuals, I was also really struck by the population there. We had a number of families. Michelle, how many kiddos do you have there? Is about 20 right now? 31. And the youngest one is what, 3 weeks old at this point? 10 days. Wow. So I think that that's really important for the community to hear about, some of the individuals that we are supporting at Consuelos. And that 40%, success rate in getting people into long-term housing, that's very impressive with this population. And I think it really does speak to this model. And the success of how we start to change into this non-congregate shelter, a lot of the wraparound services, all of the support and case management that is going into helping each individual. The other factoid that Michelle shared with me that I think is important for us to hear has to do with how long it takes to actually get a voucher. So I'll let you speak to it, but the number that really stuck to me is like, if nothing goes wrong, if somebody is completely on top of things, there are no issues with IDs or missing histories or any challenges. If everything goes perfectly, it's about 7 months, correct, before somebody is approved for a voucher? 8 months? I will let you speak to this.
Madam Chair, Counselor, I would say that on average, the way I describe it, if somebody's not facing severe mental illness or a substance use in any way, that they're able to navigate applications, follow through on some of these systems and programs that are in place, it usually takes on average about 8 to 10 months to acquire a voucher. And then from that point, it usually takes between 5 to 7 months to acquire housing. That's on average, the realm that we've monitored so far.
Yeah, thank you. I just, they're staggering numbers. I mean, when you think about if somebody were to become homeless tomorrow, on average, we're looking at 1.5 years. For this individual to find housing. So the fact that Consuelos is serving about 100 people per year is quite impressive given those numbers. And I just really wanted to thank you and your staff for this work and for the opportunity for me to really come in and get more of a deep dive into everything that you're doing, as well as hear about all of the different programs and plans and the ways that you want to continue to grow Consuelos. And I think it really is a boon for how we work with the homeless population as we continue to address this issue. And you and I discussed that, it's going to take a variety of different, attempts. We're going to be looking at, the emergency shelters and the pallet homes and Consuelos and Santa Fe suites and more affordable housing. And really it is the spectrum, and we have to be working at all of these different pieces of the puzzle, and your understanding of where Consuelos fits in that broader approach, I was just very impressed with. So I wanted to take the opportunity while you're here, as long as we're discussing it. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Counselor Lee Garcia.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for the presentation or being here for the questions. So as I'm understanding, then the Consuelo's Place operates slightly different than what the Pete's Place Interfaith Shelter mission is in regards to getting people in a stepping stone towards housing. Is that correct? And so, in regards to, because it says, what we're doing is Interfaith Community Shelter LLC. The reasoning for this is for fiscal sponsorship and oversight. Do you have a different specific set of rules that you'll be following at Consuelo's Place, or are you just adopting maybe the previous managers of Consuelo's Place?
So Madam Chair, Counselor Lee Garcia, Interfaith is continuing to adopt the policies of Consuelo's and the way it stands. Right now, the fiscal sponsorship is only over the funding that runs Consuelo's. So everything will be maintained. Michelle staying. Okay. Staying on staff as well as her staff. And so they're just going to maintain the operations of Consuelo's. And all the grant funding is going to start transferring over to Interfaith as the fiscal sponsor.
Thank you. And the only reason I bring that to light is, we have had many issues recently at Pete's. I haven't heard as much in regards to Consuelo's and the statement that I just made in regards to their different in what their kind of their mission is. But what we kind of don't want to see is, and here again, the Midtown campus is going to be developed in the future. And so this is probably not going to be something that's permanent. However, now during the time that it is being managed and funded, will we continue to keep the same quality of management of the facility in regards to, hopefully we don't end up with issues like we are having at Pete's. And so just kind of a bit of concern and a little bit of questioning around that. And so in that regard, I'm in favor. I've seen what you guys are doing at Consuelo's, and it does seem to be helping many people with a hand up, so to speak. And from that, I do appreciate it. So no more questions, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Any other questions from the committee? And if not, is there a motion to approve? Second. We have a motion and a second to approve this item. Can we get a roll call, please?
Certainly, Madam Chair. Counselor Cassett,
Yes.
Counselor Lindell, Counselor Faulkner,
Yes.
Counselor Lee Garcia,
Yes.
Chair Romero Worth.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Thank you all for being here tonight. Appreciate it. Item N is our last item off of consent. This is consideration of bill number 2024-8, adoption of ordinance number 2024, still unnumbered. A bill authorizing the city of Santa Fe as the borrower to enter into a loan agreement with the New Mexico Environment Department for the purpose of obtaining project loan funds in the principal amount of $151 million plus accrued interest, designating the use of the funds for the purpose defined in the most current project description form as approved by NMED, declaring the necessity for the loan, providing that the loan will be payable and collectible solely from the borrower's pledged revenues defined below, prescribing other details concerning the loan and the security of that purpose. Who do we have here tonight? Anyone?
Madam Chair, we have Christine.
But she's not subject matter expert. Nobody online, right?
Madam Chair, we have Rhonda Holderman with the Environment Department.
Okay, but nobody from the city. And I appreciate Rhonda being here. She's with NMED and manages the grants that are made from this. I know Councilor Lindell, you pulled this off. I don't know if you want to, if you have comments or you have
Well,
question, how you want to handle this.
Chair, I think that you can probably address it. I'd just like a brief overview. I mean, I think that it's something that we need to do. I think the interest rates are extremely favorable and, it's hard to know, it's very hard to know, what future sources of money might be. But I just thought that maybe you could give us a little overview on this. And, I mean, it seemed like at Finance Committee, we probably should at least have a discussion about $150-some million item. So
Okay.
if you'd give us a little bit on that, I'd appreciate it.
Sure, and we have had several conversations at the Public Works, Public Utilities Committee on this item with our city water, well, city utility staff, I guess. This is requesting permission essentially for us to enter into a loan agreement with the New Mexico Department, the New Mexico Environment Department. And the loan is offered through the Clean Water State Revolving Fund. It's $151 million line of credit. And the interest rate is 0.01%, which is pretty incredible when you consider what interest rates are, for a 30-year term. And this, from our discussions at Public Works and Public Utilities, staff has provided testimony that has said this is something that they need to get started with the wastewater treatment facility upgrades and retrofits, and bringing us a modern facility that's in compliance with our permits. They have this $151 million loan is it's like having a credit card. It's a line of credit. We will take it as we need it and if we need it. There are a number of different ways to fund the wastewater treatment facility modernization. There's this line of credit. There's legislative funding, as we know. There's federal grants. There is our own utility fund, and it will probably take all of that over time to do the upgrades we need. And as of course we all know, we're waiting for the results of a study that will give us what our options are in terms of updating and modernizing the facility so that we are in compliance with our permits. And I don't know, Director Oster, if you have anything you would add based on just the finance part of this. I know the interest, you and I talked earlier today, and the interest rate is certainly very favorable, and we can ask a couple questions of our guest who's online. I don't want to put her on the spot in presenting what this is, but certainly she was very knowledgeable in responding to questions at the Public Works, Public Utilities Committee. So Director Oster, I don't know if you have anything to add on what I've just said.
Madam Chair, from the finance perspective, I anticipate that we will need multiple funding sources to address the needs of our utility programs. They do have cash balances, and they also have significant capital needs, and these types of very large public works projects, such as the dam rehabilitation that's going on at Nichols Dam, the needs of the wastewater treatment facility. These are huge public works projects that are very expensive, and in order to address those needs, I anticipate that we will need multiple funding sources. And as you pointed out, I think the Clean Water State Revolving Loan Fund is a very attractive option because the interest rate is just so wonderfully low that the Environment Department is making these funds available to us. So, from the finance perspective, I think this is a great opportunity for the city to address some of these large and expensive infrastructure needs at our utilities.
Yeah, and I guess I would like to bring Ms. Holderman into this conversation because I believe you told us at the Public Works and Public Utilities Committee meeting the last time you were here that the state has actually lowered the interest rate to this level that it's currently sitting to encourage local governments to take advantage of this funding because the projects that this fund underwrites are generally very expensive for local governments. And this is a way of trying to manage that expense. And maybe you could just confirm that that's what we heard at the Public Works, Public Utilities Committee meeting.
Thank you for asking. And yes, that is exactly what I said before. We lowered the interest rate to move money. We had a large fund balance. And then the bipartisan infrastructure law came along, which really just added to it. So it's like, how can we, how can we move this money and get it to where it needs to go? We know that it is your job as the leaders of your community and in the best interest of your constituents to try to get together as much free money as possible. And we totally support that. And that's where the reference to a line of credit makes sense because you don't have to take all of the money. If you don't take it all, then, obviously you're not paying back what you don't take. But it is there for you to get started with these projects. Everybody seems to recognize that, there is some urgency with them. So, we did lower the interest rate to create more interest around the state and to try to get some of these projects done. We've had one relatively small project in the stormwater sector with the city of Santa Fe, but that's it. And so it's a good time for us to work together and create this partnership and have open conversations about what needs to happen. And so if you all find other funding sources. I know that there was some discussion during the Public Works meeting about federal grants. And certainly the federal government's got a lot of money out there. If you find significant ones, you've got to take it. And that's what you got to do for your communities. But federal grants are complicated. They're hard to apply for. They're very time consuming. And that's where we can come in and move this along and get things going.
Yeah, and I think just to follow up on that, you mentioned that this could be helpful to us, and I think we've heard staff say the same thing in getting started. And in some ways, in getting started on the project that we know is needs to be completed as soon as possible, and we do need to get started rather quickly. And we could get started while we look for other funding opportunities. And I'm glad you mentioned, I think we're, as I think Councilor Lindell said, I think you said it, I think Director Oster said it, we're going to need all of these funding sources to get this plant modernized. And federal grants, we're going to need them. And I think it's helpful to recognize that they are onerous in a way in terms of the requirements that come with them. And I think they're also not without cost in complying with the terms and the things that are required. So none of this is completely free in a sense. I mean, this interest rate is really good, and we can feel like it's free compared against other interest rates. We can feel too that the federal government's money is free, except it's not really when you consider the cost of compliance. And I don't know,
That's right.
Director Oster, if you want to speak to that, or Ms. Holderman, if you have experience with kind of the cost. And again, I'm not suggesting we shouldn't be applying for and or accepting or being ungrateful for federal grants. We're going to need them, but I just want everybody to know there's cost with that as well.
Madam Chair, with regard to my perspective, there are compliance costs associated with federal grants. As Ms. Folderman mentioned, it's a big lift to complete the applications. Once the awards have been made, we have to make sure that we're following all of the terms and conditions, and the cost of compliance with federal requirements, for example, Davis-Bacon and Buy America, is recognized to increase the overall cost of projects. And that is such an issue that the state has actually created a fund. The state of New Mexico has created a fund that entities can apply to for support covering those additional compliance costs associated with using federal financing, federal grants to finance projects. So, Madam Chair, I do think that is a real concern that, these compliance requirements associated with federal grants are something that we shouldn't take lightly. And we should, plan ahead for both potentially increased costs and then also additional work to ensure that we're doing all the required reporting and that we're following all the requirements associated with those federal grants.
Right. So again, we're going to
And-
need them. We're going to need to do that work. Yes, Ms. Holderman, please.
Well, to be fair, I mean, our program is federally funded and we do pass through some of those federal requirements. But our program is unique because with a federal grant, the entire amount of the grant is subject to the federal requirements. And with our funding, we only pass through the federal portion of a grant that we get, but the corpus of our fund is not subject to it. Now, there are some different types of projects that are subject to different federal requirements. For example, a treatment works project is subject to Davis-Bacon, and that would be the wastewater treatment plant improvements or, a new wastewater treatment plant, whereas Nichols Dam would not be subject to those. So it is complex. We take the lead on making sure that we spread all of that out and divide it up so that your folks know what they need to comply with. We have technical staff that will help you through that. And to a certain extent, the cost of you employing somebody to manage just this can be part of what is reimbursable. And we'll work with your staff to make sure that you get the most bang for your buck.
Thank you. Appreciate that information. I know that Director Dupuy was trying to join via Zoom. Has he done that?
Madam Chair, I received a message indicating that he was trying to join. I don't see him in the Zoom yet.
Okay. Well, we'll continue along and we'll see how we're doing. Counselor Lindell, did that help? Do you have other questions?
That helps tremendously, and thank you for being on the Zoom call tonight. It's much appreciated. I think that anytime that I can have an opportunity to have a line of credit of $150 million. Now, I know it's not quite like a credit card. There's a few other little nuances to it, but $150 million set aside for 30 years at 1%. That's a very-
0.01.
0.01%. That is a very, very easy decision for me to make. And whoever worked on putting this together, I am deeply grateful to them.
Thank you. And I believe Director Dupuy is responsible for finding and bringing this forward as an option. And I'm going to now, if you're finished, I'm going to refer to other, Counselor Lee Garcia.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I appreciate the dialogue. I attended Public Works remotely, stuck in an airport with all the fiasco that happened a couple weekends ago. And either way, I wasn't able to ask some questions, but the conversation and the dialogue has been very valuable. I really kind of just more have comments in regards to this because, you know, I am a firm believer that you try to utilize your assets first, but use loans and so on, and I guess in this case grants as needed and what makes the most sense at the time for each project. And so, you know, I did have some concerns in regards to borrowing money, but at the same time, with the explanation of the low interest rates and so on and so forth, I think it does make a lot of sense. At least it makes a lot of sense to have it in your arsenal, to be able to rely upon if you do need it. And so mainly comments, questions that I had before have been pretty much answered, and just kind of wanted to make some comments in regards to that. So again, free money if you can get it. Obviously, there is a cost. There's always going to be hidden costs to things, and it's really difficult and hard to know what those hidden costs are. And in this case, you know, you may even take a look at from the business perspective what the opportunity costs are. And if you're waiting for a grant to come through and you can leverage this money immediately, you know, what's going to be the cost of waiting? And so a lot of those things you just really can't put a number on. But mostly comments, so not really any other questions on this. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Counselor. I think that's an excellent point of the cost of, you know, waiting. And, you know, if we don't have the resources to move forward, then the whole cost may be going up while we're hamstrung waiting for other opportunities. Director Oster, you wanted to add, will you do me a favor? Will you pull that mic that's next to you down, the one to your, yeah, it's like right in my line of sight. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have had some messages from Director Dupuy. He is having technical difficulties,
Okay.
and he just wanted me to thank Rhonda so much for joining us. We really appreciate it, and he apologizes that he's not able to connect.
Okay. Thank you. Other questions from the committee? All right. Is there a motion? Motion to approve. We have a motion and a second to approve. Director Oster, did you get that motion and second?
Yes, thank you.
And can we get a roll call, please?
Certainly. Counselor Cassett,
Yes.
Counselor Lindell, Counselor Faulkner,
Yes.
Counselor Lee Garcia,
Yes.
Chair Romero Worth.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate the conversation. Thank you, Ms. Holderman, for being with us again tonight. Your expertise is very handy.
Thank you.
All right. We do not have any discussion items, no executive session, matters from staff. Director Oster.
Madam Chair, no matters from staff this evening.
All right. Matters from the committee. Matters from the chair. Our next meeting is Monday, August 12th. And with that, we are adjourned. Thanks, everyone.